Om Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Sri Matre Namaha. We continue with the talks that we started with Navaratri, and today is talk number 32. Today I will speak on how you can gain the deserving ability to desire from God whatever you want, and what is involved with prayers, and what is this sadhana about. I don't know if I will be able to cover everything in this one talk, but we'll begin here. So here, gaining this deserving ability has two aspects to it. And we already know that the Almighty Nature, the Prakriti, is always available, is there. The Prakriti is there to spontaneously help you. There is no need for you to request or do anything to get the support of this Prakriti. All we have to do is develop this ability to deserve and then desire. On the fundamental level, we deserve by making full use of all aspects of our life. And what are these all aspects of our life? It is the mental, physical, and spiritual, and the other aspects of life. We make full use of our own individual existence. Now, you have already heard a saying, God helps those who helps themselves. So we have to be true to ourselves. We don't have to be true to Mother Nature. We only have to be true to ourselves. And being true to ourselves means when we speak, the speech should have the full support of being. If we are acting, then our actions or the field of action should be supported by being. So here, being true to yourself means providing the very basis of the action. And what is this basis of the action? The basis of the action is the being or the self. So again, here being true to ourself means that all the different components of our life are in good harmony. That is the mental, physical, spiritual, all of them are in good harmony and are well disposed to every aspiration of ours and to every action of ours. Here, the important thing is to stand on one's own feet steadily. And Maharishiji says, the feet of life is being. So when our life stands on the feet, that means you are standing on the basis of being. And so from here, one is supported from all sides. So if we are not connected to the being and we can't stand on the feet, on our own feet, then we have to be dependent on others all the time. And further, if we don't gain the support of different aspects of our own individual life, that means we don't have harmony with our physical, mental capabilities, and we don't have the connection with the being, then how can we deserve the support of the Almighty Nature? And even if one expects, the expectation will be futile. So here it is important to understand that one should bring out oneself fully. That means one should be able to bring out from one's own self the reserve. So again, when one is fully out to do something, then if he wants more and more effect then he brings out more and more from that reserve within oneself. So then the being supporting thought and action gains the complete support of the Almighty nature. So, having gained that status, having experienced that unlimited consciousness, that field of the Almighty, then we intellectually understand that to gain that support of the Almighty nature, it is not only within man's reach, but it is automatically lying at the hand to be spontaneously used. And this is how the desire becomes deserved, and then one finds fulfillment in that. Now let us look at the prayers and how it can bring fulfillment to an individual, and how one can gain all the aspirations of this prayer. We understand that in every culture and in every religion there is a prayer to God. Because the being is transcendental and it is out of sight, it becomes less important and even unimportant, and one focuses only on the physical aspects of the prayer. We also know that in many religions people pray to God while eating, while doing this or that action. So these become the traditions, and reaching out to the reality of this being becomes out of sight, and it also becomes unimportant. Again, the physical phenomenal existence, the physical phenomenal level of behavior, all these become important. Again, the transcendental reality, which is the basis, is unseen, and because it is unseen, nobody bothers for it. Then the body becomes important, and the consciousness remaining behind the scenes becomes unimportant. It goes out of memory, and only the physical comes into the memory. So only the physical aspects of the prayer or the mental aspects of the prayer becomes important. And the basis of this physical, the matter, which is consciousness, remains hidden from view. So when one remains in these boundaries, when one remains in these boundaries of space and time, then all these difficulties, all the obstacles, all the suffering or the sickness, all manifest. One fails to fathom that the actuality is boundless and infinity, and that it is unmanifest being. And so, because one does not have the ability to contact the being by going inwards, by transcending, then all these prayers in search of the God or the light of God has to be done many times. And even when they are done many times, then one feels, that my prayer is not heard, my prayer is not attended or supported. So here it is important to understand that leaves and fruits become important to such superficial prayers, and the sap remains unimportant. So when one cannot attend to the sap, then even the leaves and flowers and all the other phenomena wither away, and they become unattended. In essence, when the roots are not attended, the fruits are not available. So here it is simple enough to say, which Maharishiji would always say, water the root to enjoy the fruit. Go to the transcendence beyond space and time in order to gain everything. Now, let us try to understand these prayers. There are various forms of prayer, and each form of prayer leads to the same goal, and only some will lead slowly, others will not reach at all, and those who contact the being, the prayer reaches immediately. Now, prayer means allowing our mind and heart to flow to Bhagavan or God. And this flow has to reach, and that is why we say, bring this connection, bring this pipeline to that great reservoir which is called the being. Now again, the prayer, if it is in accord with the nature of the mind, and if it is in accord with the mind, a pure mind, then it will reach much quicker. Here, the blessing of the Almighty is not something from an ordinary powerless man. So, when something better is experienced, or when something better is gained, then one knows that the prayer has been heard. And if one feels more peaceful, happier, more energetic, and the surroundings feel more harmonious or more harmony with people around, then one feels that they have received the blessings of God. Now, if we take this one step forward, this prayer, let us try to understand this. The prayer can be of two different structures. One where one is asking. There are certain classes of people who are continuously only asking, ask for something and seeking for something. And the other type is not asking but enjoying singing the praise or the glory of God, singing the appreciation of God. And this is the prayer that every devotee or the seeker enjoys. He is not asking but amusing oneself, and let oneself be drowned in the enjoyment of singing the glories of God. And this is the devotional prayer. And this is the ocean of ecstasy, remembering God. And this is the ocean of ecstasy with great loves for the love of God. And this is the kind of prayer which just outbursts from the swelling of the heart in love for Him. And it is the outpouring of the heart, the emotion towards this Almighty that cultures the heart. So this devotee does not want anything. He is not seeking for anything. All he wants is to express his love for God and feels God's love in return. And through this feeling of love and devotion, it becomes possible to communicate to God and also or the other celestial beings. Here, because of this love and devotion, one becomes lost in God. And then the communication on this level of intense outpouring of love happens. We see this in every religion, these bursts of ecstasies and expressing their love and devotion through singing glories. Particularly in the Vedic tradition, we have the kirtans, the stotras, the bhajans, the dance, and reading the other Vedic literature. Everything which brings this great, enormous connection to God. So praying on this level, then it brings great expansion in the heart. And in its unbounded expansion, the heart becomes unmanageable. It becomes so full and it just keeps outpouring this such devotional outbursts. For such devotees, this singing and dancing in the praise of God, in the memory of God, is just a very, very natural thing. We have seen great saintly devotees and great many devotees involved in prayers like this. It is very enriching to the life of the devotee, and the concept of this prayer is very valuable to a devotee. Here the heart becomes unbounded, and it is very natural for experience this unboundedness in the heart, and this unbounded being gets more and more saturated in life. So this prayer, which is a spontaneous outburst of the state of fulfillment, and the other type of prayer is just a cry in need, that I want this, I want that, I need this, I need that, and it is in a state of non-fulfillment. And this is what it is you're praying and you're asking from a very undesirable level of life, from a non-deserving level, from a level where one doesn't deserve that grandness. Here, such union with God and such devotion pouring out from the heart actually brings growth in the cosmic consciousness. Consciousness grows first towards cosmic consciousness, and the cosmic consciousness then grows spontaneously into God consciousness. So here the individual heart has that unboundedness of the eternal being. And this outpouring of love, this infinite love, is said to be the prayer. And it is most desirable, most enjoyable, and most effective. And when you look at these prayers, these kirtans, these bhajans, and these stotras, one can see how these devotees are floating in that great emotional experience and ecstasies, because they are praying like, Thou art like that, Thou art like this, Thou art so compassionate, unbounded, omnipresent. And they start having these beautiful visions and experiences of Bhagavan lost in the God. And they continue to have this memory of this love, great infinite love and devotion to God. And this memory continues to refresh again and again this outpouring of the fullness of life. Now there are other types of prayers where it is just a formality and the lips are saying something but one is truly not involved, and they just do it like a duty. They think because it has to be done, it's a part of a ritual or a part of a tradition. Such things are good when there is a family and when there are children, because there is something to learn from the parents, even from these simple traditions and rituals. But in reality, it becomes a matter of duty and it doesn't touch the core of life. It is just very superficial. But these traditions become very enlivened, become very useful when one learns transcendence. If one can transcend and then do the puja, automatically everything keeps changing. Even a very simple expression of this prayer or puja. And every time there is more and more infusion of this being or the consciousness, then the puja gets better and there is more and more growth of the cosmic consciousness happening in the individual too. And all these traditional prayers then become properly effective. And then comes the joy of prayer. The joy of prayer which is real on this level of consciousness. And especially now we want our children to connect to this tradition. We want our children to communicate, be able to communicate with God. Then it is all the more important that the children learn to transcend. Then the children will begin to understand that there is some higher power, some God that he is praying to. And they begin to start opening their eyes and ears and hearts open for something higher. And when the child communicates to God, whether it is silently or verbally, then he is in connection with the Almighty. Otherwise, one keeps thinking, maybe someday I will be able to commune, maybe someday I will be able to meet God, maybe someday I will be able to see God. But when the Almighty in the transcendental area is gained, then the real communion happens. It happens in the transcendental level, and having gained that on that level of the omnipresent life, then this effective communion that is gained in the transcendental state finds its place in the field of speech and action. This is because it creeps into the other phases of relative life. And it enters from thought to speech, and then it is prayers and songs, and this grace and compassion of God that one is always talking about is experienced. Then this communion is happening in the singing, in the dance, in addition to the transcendental state. So here it's important to understand that the first communion is happening during the transcending. So the first communion is happening during that state of transcendental consciousness. Then having come out, we are plunging into the activity of these prayers, connecting to God on that level of speech and song. And this is a very natural state of experience for the bhaktas or the devotees. And here the communion and the realization or experiences are positive, effective, and can be concrete. Otherwise, they will be just on a psychological level where it just touches and goes, and one starts feeling, yes, I have felt God, I have experienced, but there is nothing there substantial to last, and it will not repeat itself. Now finally, I want to say that all these prayers and everything that is involved with the prayers is all a part of the sadhana, and it is a path to realization. For some, it comes naturally, and for some, one grows into it. After repeated transcendence, when one experiences the being and experiences these finer states of experience of the Prakriti, then one develops devotion. So here the devotion is really expressed in the heart. It's expressed both in the mind and the heart, but the heart is really very expanded in devotion, because it is so much love and outpouring love to Bhagavan. So naturally, when one continues to transcend and one continues to do the prayers in whatever way possible, then this expansion of both the mind and the heart come, and then there is harmony between the mind and the heart. And in essence, both become full. The mind is full and the heart is full. Normally, people look at and say, these are drawn to knowledge and these are drawn to devotion. And so they naturally create two different yogas. But we already heard in Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya saying that these are not two different paths. They are just two different expressions which will ultimately come together. Then there are fortunately a few people who have very well developed heart and mind, and they are very high in devotion. For me personally, both the knowledge and the devotion came right from childhood. I was keenly seeking knowledge, and then I was very devoted to Shiva and Parvati, which I can't even fathom and explain. Now, if I say that this has come from the past lives, we say Purva Janma Sukrutam, it has come from the past lives, somewhere you have been already more devoted and you have already had these samadhi experiences, and which is just expressing itself in this life and gave the enlightenment. Then it may sound esoteric, but in reality it is the truth. So that is why in this self-realization, one has to find oneself, one has to discover these truths and this devotion, and gaining these higher states of consciousness, one has to gain oneself. So in the Vedic tradition, then these pujas, in addition to transcendence, dhyana samadhis, then these pujas, the yagnas, and then there is the seva. Seva is not service, but it is the highest form of worship, doing service to God and also doing service to the God's creation is the highest form of worship, and it is a part of the sadhana, important part of the sadhana. In the same way, there is dasa. That means, here many times in English language it's referred to as being a slave. But here you're being a pure devotee of God, and you have surrendered to God and trust in God, and you become the dasa. And we hear many times many of the great saints like Ramadas, Krishnadas, Tulsidas, they're all referred to as dasas. So finally, every act of this physical worship, yagnas, and then all the singings of the stotras, the kirtanas, the bhajans, and all the performing all the arts like the dance and the drama, all connected to God, are all part of the sadhana, in addition to being a dasa and then doing the seva. It's only by bringing these all together that then the sadhana becomes fulfilled. And the basis of this sadhana is the being, the transcendence. If one learns to transcend, then all of the sadhana will become fulfilled and bear fruit quickly. And when you incorporate all of this in the sadhana, then your experiences of Prakriti and the Almighty Paramatma will become very fruitful and fulfilled. And the rise in the consciousness happens spontaneously, because one is feeding the other. So that is why it is important that we don't forget the root, we don't forget the source, and we transcend every day. So with this I bring a conclusion to what we started in Devi Mahatmyam. There is just one more talk which I wanted to say is about gaining the psychic powers, and maybe I will just talk about it tomorrow and then move on with Gita. Jai Gurudev, Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.